Welcome, everybody. Hello, hello. Welcome to the cross-vertical stage. We have a few people already here. Whoever else is interested in the cross-vertical topics, please join us here at this very special stage. It's special for us because it really reflects our cross-vertical footprint here at Plug and Play. And it's bringing together industries that usually are not as much in the spotlight here at the Startup Autobahn Expo. So a lot of work goes into making these collaborations, these companies happen, and we're super excited to showcase everything that's happening here today at the stage. We're stepping outside mobility, so we're bringing trends, insights, case studies from other industries. We look at touch points with mobility, but going actually well beyond that. And lastly, we're very excited about our growing insurance ecosystem and platform, and we have dedicated a very special segment to the InsurTech Expo 16 that will be featured around 4:15 here on the stage. So let's get started. I'm Christina Niedermeyer. I'm a senior manager in our healthcare ecosystem at Plug and Play. I'm based in Munich, so I came here from the Munich team. Other people also contributed to the efforts here. I'm working mostly with our healthcare and pharma partners and leading our global ecosystem around healthcare innovation. And it's exciting to showcase everything outside of mobility here for me. So what do we have in store? I won't go into detail here, but just summarizing, we are talking about deep tech here on the stage, about future products and value chains, about dual use, which is really a trending topic, and lastly, as mentioned, the InsurTech Expo. So let's get right started. I hope you are as excited as I am. I see some faces that are excited to pitch here on the stage very soon. Some panelists are getting ready. So let's get started with the first panel, and we'll talk about deep tech. So where will Europe's next breakthrough actually come from? We noticed that deep tech investment is really the engine behind Europe's next wave of innovation. There's a few hubs across Europe where there's a lot going on. And this panel brings together the investors deciding where that capital flows. And we'll really talk about that in much detail. So welcome on stage, Alexander from Plug and Play moderating this panel. Then we have Johannes Triebs, founding partner at UTV, and Mathieu Deschanville, general partner at Shift for Good. Give them a round of applause.
Thank you for that intro, Christina, and really nice to talk with Mathieu and also Johannes about deep tech and where the next breakthrough research will be in Europe. And to give a quick introduction of the panel participants, we have Johannes here with us from U2V, an early stage fund investing into pre-seed and seed startups, mostly in university spin-outs in Europe. And then we also have Mathieu Deschanville with us, co-founder and managing partner at Shift for Good. VC fund focused on the decarbonization in the transportation sector with over 220 million in assets under management. And also one of their portfolio startups, Compredict, is right across the stage on the other side. So really nice to talk to the both of you about this topic. And we want to dive right into the topic and talk about Europe's structural advantage, because we often hear the common narrative that research is quite good in Europe, but when it then comes to commercialization and further scaling, the US is far ahead of us. And Europe is just about regulating. So first question, to maybe starting with you, Johannes. Where is the real structural advantage that we have in Europe, and what is the basis that we can build on for future unicorns in the deep tech sector?
Yeah, first of all, Alexander, thank you very much for inviting. Very happy to be on the panel today. We think that Europe has really strong science, strong technologies, lots of strong universities. I mean, in Germany, we have for sure the Munich ecosystem with also lots of startups, but there's also you find a strong professor with every university in Germany. For example, there's a strong quantum computing cell in Siegen. There's a great professor for robotics in Darmstadt. And if you look at the European level, there's lots of strong hubs. ETH Zurich developed strongly, especially for AI and robotics. The Paris ecosystem is really interesting. Oxford, London, Cambridge, the Nordics also for energy. So there's a lot going on, as you said. And on the other side, if you compare it to the US, there's way less successful startups and so on. So I think the basis is great. What's also great is that we have lots of great industry corporates in manifold industries. I mean, Plug and Play is a hub for automotive and mobility, but there's also lots of other interesting industries, and this is really needed to support startups early on. But we still need, I would say, 10 times more startup activities in Germany and Europe, like 10 times more like Munich and ETH Zurich. The startup factories in Germany is a good first start, but we need much more and better quality. And on the other side, what will really help the startups would also be 10 times more venture clienting from corporates. So we work a lot with corporates, and I think there's really a vast potential to combine innovation of startups and the internal activities. I mean, 20 years ago, innovation was mostly done out of the corporate. Nowadays, it's really shifted. You have to look at startups and to have that much more structured and do much more venture clienting that would really help the startup ecosystem.
Yeah. And then over to you, Mathieu. You have a big corporate LP base also with your fund.
Yeah.
What do you see as a structural advantage in Europe, and also maybe going a bit more into detail about the industrial backbone that we have in Europe and the role that these players take?
Yeah, sure. So the regulation you mentioned, many will say that regulation is too heavy in Europe. Actually, for good, we back companies where regulation, we don't see it as a constraint, but as something that is embedded in the products. So I would argue that Europe is the only region where compliance, trust is embedded from the start and by design by many startups who want to deploy across this market. So that's in fact not necessarily a disadvantage, but could be turned into an advantage. And if you look at the AI Act, sector-specific standards, data sovereignty requirements, that may look like friction from the outside, but for many industrial buyers in automotive, energy, healthcare, those are purchasing criteria. So if in Europe our startups are able to tackle that by design from the start, they can create an advantage. And look, China has a speed and scale, and but also growing deficit of trust for market exports, IP concerns, geopolitical exposure. The US deep tech is super strong, but they are looking increasingly inward facing. In Europe, I think we can really play our game and lead, because from the start we can be the one that embed in our product and service features the trust, the compliance aspects. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, understood. Like what you said is research institutes we have in Europe. There's a lot of great research coming out. We also have the industry to then help the startups to commercialize it. So let's dive a bit deeper into the sectors that we see that also you are investing in when it comes to deep tech. Maybe starting with you, Johannes. What is the current thesis at U2V? What are the topics you're most interested in as an investor, and where you're currently deploying the money?
Yeah. First of all, we are a broad deep tech investor. We see around 3,000 to 4,000 startups annually in Europe. We invest across all industries and technologies, you can say, like AI, compute, robotics, space tech, clean tech, and so on. And so we have theses in all these different fields. Maybe to touch one area that's also really out of interest for this group over here with your mobility focus. We like, for example, if you look at AI startups, we like startups that tackle unstructured data. For example, we are invested into Certivity together with also you guys. They do product compliance for automotive. They collect unstructured data and help the engineer to have a more efficient product development roadmap, because before the engineer is looking at the different ISO norms and guidelines and is looking for the right frames for his development tasks, and Certivity is automating that. So they collect lots of different data, put it together, and typically if you develop a new product in automotive, you have to also bring it to the market in 200 countries, so there's lots of regulation which is continuously changed via over the product life cycle, and this is what they do. Or another example is Edmund AI. That's an investment out of our new fund. They also collect unstructured data in production. So they help you, if your production line breaks down, that you are up and running as quick as possible. They don't do predictive maintenance. They don't do single machines. They do production lines. And in automotive, you can say every hour breakdown costs like 2 million euro. And with a really well-established production line, you have let's say 1,000 sensors, 500 actuators, robotics included, automation technologies, different PLCs, and so on. And then it breaks down, and then you start looking. And they just help these teams to be up and running as quick as possible. And they also collect unstructured data from these different sources. So that's one thesis, for example.
And then over to you, Mathieu. What are you currently looking at in the...
Yeah, the thesis is quite broad, but if I had to pick one topic, I would say probably physical AI for industrial automation. I'm not thinking here about the humanoid robot hype. I'm thinking about the software and control layer that allows machines, vehicles, warehouses, ports, factories to operate safely and autonomously in real-world environments. So this is really an area where we believe a lot is currently happening and will for quite some time. By the way, that's also interesting for players, legacy players from the automotive industry, because they have a lot of skills and assets to operate in this field. With the excellence in manufacturing that we have in Europe, and even more maybe in this region. Thinking about the fact of using this to assemble, manufacture other assets, like we see that more and more, of course. Automotive players going into the assembly of drones and or robots. So this is an area which we think is very promising, and where Europe can not just can lead, in fact, and not be a follower, because we have the industrial customers, we have the engineering talent. We have the ability to comply with the regulation. We have a lot of assets. If we can mobilize fast enough the capital, and if the industrial customer are also fast enough to deploy, I think Europe could win in that space.
I mean, both of you mentioned that the startups in that space, be it manufacturing, be it physical AI, they're kind of dependent on also industry customers to integrate their technology in a quick way, so you don't have super long sales cycle. Do you also see a risk that maybe these bigger companies are not fast enough to integrate startup technologies into their environment and into their systems?
If I take it first, I think it's... I mean, I've invested in many companies whose technology had to be embedded into series production vehicles. It's tough, and it tends to be tougher and tougher in Europe. It takes many years. With technologies that are applied in the manufacturing environment, I see many startups that have a use case with an ROI which is less than 12 months. Much easier for factory decision makers or vice president of supply chain manufacturing to decide to go, because usually the payback is much faster.
Yeah, I think this is true for all industries, not only automotive or mobility. If you go to energy or whatever, it's the same. And as you mentioned, Mathieu, if you are a startup, if you are a startup out of university or have a great technology, you have to understand if you really solve a problem out there in the market. Because in the end, you have to sell to a customer and you have to build a product. And if you only deliver an incremental improvement, then a large corporate will not change its processes, as you just described. So you have to have a technology leap, and this is really important. And then you have to have a network that helps you to get into these corporates and find the right people. If you're robotic startups and want to work with an automotive OEM, you have to have someone helping you to find the right expert in that organization. So that's really important. And on the corporate side, we see everything. I mean, we see super slow corporates where nothing happens, like, let's say, black holes, but we also see the other end. We see also super constructive and helpful corporates. So I talked to a board member of a construction company from Munich beginning of this week. One of our portfolio companies is a customer, and he called me and said, "Hey, your startup is too slow. What can we do that they speed up?" And I called the founder, and he told me, "Yeah, we agreed on a plan. They gave us a plan with their milestones, and that's what we are targeting. If they want to be faster, we are happy to go for. They should adapt the plan and we will deliver." So I called the board member again and told him, "Hey, you have to adapt your plan that they understand that you want to be quicker." And then this also builds trust between the corporate and the startup. If you have this communication, so you also see these great examples where the corporate even pushes for faster deployment with the startup. And we love to work with corporates that really are hands-on, are looking for new innovation, and where you have a quick route into their organization with the right expert. I mean, in the end, I don't know if the technology of that startup fits into the process landscape of the customer, but at least we can guarantee that we show an interesting technology where it's worth that an expert takes a 30 minutes call, and then they can take it from there.
Yeah, no, definitely. Then let's go a bit further. So we've heard about, we have to research, industry support is very important. But what is missing in Europe to really scale these early stage startups to global leaders? So we see, for example, that a significant amount of late stage funding especially is delivered in or deployed into US startups. So question to both of you. So how do we break this, let's call it valley of death in the scale up phase, and scale these European startups to global leaders? What is missing, and how can we, or better say, how can we achieve that?
Yeah, it's true that I think we have 45% of deep tech startups in Europe at the global scale and 17% of funding. So yes, that's a real gap, that's the truth, but there is also a kind of coalition gap. I think we need three things. We need larger specialized funds that are able to put 10 to 30 million euro checks and understand industrial timelines. Second, we need so corporates with faster industrial procurement processes when working with startups. I mean, a startup can survive a technology challenge of several months, but they often can't survive a 24 months of unpaid pilot cycle. So this is also some responsibility on the corporate side, and when we support our portfolio startups for them to work with corporates, we help them define clear milestones and identify if there is an identified business owner, identified procurement, paid pilots, all the conditions are there, a road from pilot to deployment. We say, okay, you can go there, it's safe. We have mapped it. So the second thing is faster industrial procurement, and the third thing I would say is, but you mentioned it, is growth funds for later stage funding. We need more across Europe, and there are some initiatives at the European Innovation Fund level, but we need that and not wait for a US lead to do that investment and flip over European companies to the US.
Yeah, maybe to add to this, fully agree with these points. We talked a lot about pre-seed, seed, early stage investments so far. If you look at scale-ups, besides your points that you mentioned, I think another interesting thing is grants. So there's really large European grants for photonics, semiconductor, and so on, like for breakthrough technologies that support European sovereignty. If you are a scale-up, that's defense also, yeah, that's really the ones you also should go for. For example, we are invested into Quantum Diamonds. They announced like half a year ago that they get 150 million out of a European chip program. These are the large areas you should also go for.
Yeah, thank you. So to close the panel, I would like to ask you one question, and please answer it in like one sentence, so a very quick answer. If you would have to pick one deep tech vertical, in which one will we see a European deep tech startup reaching a 100 billion valuation?
I think I said, I will repeat, physical AI for industrial automation.
Yeah, so I would first start with an area where I don't see it because it's very hyped at the moment. So defense is really hyped. Helsing has a 12 billion valuation. Maybe they aim for 18 right now. I mean, the market valuation of Rheinmetall is 45 billion. So how do you want to build a startup 100 billion plus? I think that would be difficult. I would say, if you look at, we touched a lot physical AI, robotics, and so on. I think physical AI is really hyped at the moment. Robotics is hyped. Also, AI is an enabler for scaling robotic applications. We also have a strong industry backbone in that field. So I could imagine, so far, lots of technologies are somehow closed by larger players. If you look at Siemens or SAP, similar ones. And I could imagine that there is a chance for someone breaking up these closed shops and building like a larger system provider, opening up also humanoid robotics and so on, backed by strong European corporate players. There could be an area where there's possible.
All right, thanks a lot for that answer. And maybe that $100 billion startup is already around us and you can try to find it. And with that, thanks a lot, both of you, for joining the panel, and see you around and later on.
Thank you so much to the first panel of this afternoon. Really, really amazing insights. And we'll dive right into the next topic, which is future products and value chains. So the way that we design, build, and bring products to market is really changing fast. New materials, new technologies, and new players are actually reshaping value chains across many different industries. And in this next block, we will actually have 3 keynote speakers. So one after the other, hearing different insights on where the transformation in new products and value chains is heading. So starting with the first keynote speaker, who will speak about where mobility begins, we shape the future. So we have some touch points with mobility again, even though we're on the cross-vertical stage, but that's also going way beyond. So please welcome with me on stage Andreas Wörsdörfer, Director Portfolio Strategy at Hoof Group.
Hello together. Why is mobility so important for us? Why is it such a big topic? Because mobility enables us. It's empowering us. It gives us the chance to go beyond our limits. And it makes it possible to bring people from A to B or things from A to B. Clear. But first of all, you need to enter the car. First of all, you need to have access to mobility. Do you know how to open this car, this classical car? Everyone knew it, because it was intuitive. There is a handle you can grab, there's a button you can push, and there's a physical cylinder that provides access to that car. Very nice. The relationship in those days between car and driver was clearly defined. It was a more or less one-way message. Lock, unlock, going and grab. Now the relation changes from car driver and car to user and device. That's the new world we are in. What is a relationship in general? It's a relation between human beings, between human and machine, and specifically between the human and the car. What will happen in the future? The software-defined vehicle architecture is going to bring the empathic car to the streets. And it will not longer be a one-way. It will be a really relationship, a communication between the user and the device. So for sure we can give signals, we can give commands, but the car will react. It will interact with you. There will be communication based on the latest and greatest technologies that are assembled, such as ultra-wideband, Bluetooth Low Energy, or NFC. But what is going to happen? Those kind of innovations, they are not always intuitive. Thinking about door handles that are completely clear in the surface integrated and you don't see it really. Sometimes you need user guidance for that. Sometimes you need to show the people where a hidden function is. And that is the challenge and the task and also our luck. Hoof is focusing on access and authorization. And our job for the future innovation is to make those innovations intuitive. That's important. Because where is the emergency opener? Where is the NFC interface? Sometimes we don't see it. But we need to know how to interact with the car. And to visualize that, we have a proof of concept available with company E-Ink. We have a booth over there. And one application where we provide that kind of user guidance to an innovation is a color-changing door handle that you can look at on our booth. And later on, we will pitch on the anniversary stage also furthermore about that with E-Ink together. So if you would like to discuss with us the future of access and authorization for cars and this kind of human-machine interface that need to be new defined, then we are ready to go for that. Thank you very much for your attention and have a great time here on the Expo.
Thank you so much, Andreas, for these first insights. We'll dive right into the next keynote, and we'll talk about convergence of markets, fueling innovation in automotive systems. So staying also as well around the mobility space, but going a bit beyond. Please welcome on stage Nicola Liporace, Group Vice President and Low Voltage Integrated Power Division General Manager, wow, what a title, at STMicroelectronics. Welcome.
Okay, good afternoon. So first, why I'm here? I have 25 years of experience in automotive. One of my colleagues, like this one, was challenging me, hey, you are a Methuselah. You need to open your brain, thinking about AI, thinking about robotics, etc. I was reluctant. Then what I did, I said, okay, let's do the homework and try to build my storytelling. This is what in 10 minutes I will share with you. So, convergence of markets. Today, rather than convergence of market, we should talk about convergence of technology from STMicroelectronics to support and to solve the needs of this convergence. We have and have divided, let's say, the chart in two main areas. One is the mega driver, another one is the mega trend, and in between the market. Mega driver is for sure the energy and how we handle the energy, so the efficiency. Now we can even talk about geopolitics, but it's not my field. I will keep this away. I will just stay within the electronics. So energy efficiency, that will call for electrification. And for sure, it's important when we talk about AI expansion and physical AI. When we go to the mega trend within the segment, clearly we see automotive is electrification, the digitalization that can be intended in several manners. One is okay, adding MCU, processing, etc., etc. But even digitalizing the power distribution within the car, so digitalizing the backbone of the car. This is important. And for that, you need some enabler. And enabler is a silicon. Of course, within the industrial, the rising star are robotics and AI factories, where power and energy really counts is important. Then we will see why. And then physical AI enablers with embedded processing and MEMS. Oh, nice convergence, nice, but you need enablers. You need a guy like ST, where across the domain, with several product family, with several technology, with several products, we may do that. So starting from power, analog, till the MCU. Now, I try to analyze the convergence of these three segments, clearly building my story from my angle of view. So there are many angles, many perspectives of which you may look at this convergence. And rather than reading from left to right, I try to read from right to left. So I have clusterized each and every segment in three subsystems or subcluster: power flow, thermal flow, and network flow. When you talk about AI, really we are pushing everything to the limits. We are talking about gigawatt, terawatt, etc. And you need the enabler, otherwise it will be only words and dreams. Who is the enabler? Again, silicon. It's the chip. When you handle so much power, or you handle so much energy, what do? You will have an associated thermal flow. Means that you should reduce the heat generation as much as you can, and what you generate, you need to dissipate. And we come again to silicon, or to semiconductor more in general. Optimization and removing the heating, for example, with liquid cooling and blah, blah, blah. But why we do this and this? Because we want to exchange data. Because at the end of the day, we use, I don't want to say waste, you use such an amount of energy because at the end we need to move data, to elaborate data. And again, a guy like ST will enable this one with high-speed data transmission, with photonics, etc., etc. So, and this is the first. So this is the clusterization for the AI. If we go now to the robotics, more or less is the same story. Clearly, the energy we are handling is much lower, but here we do not have the grid. We have the battery. The efficiency counts because once it's better operated, you have a lot of challenges. Sorry. So again, you cannot waste any single, not watt, but milliwatt or whatever it is. This is why here, because of the peak torque, or because of the safe operation, it's important the efficiency. But even the thermal flow, because going around, I heard something about handling the power, for example, in the robotics. It's not simple because we try to compact everything. And when you compact, really, temperature will increase. And again, you need to cool down, or better, if you prevent, the less heat generated, the better is, and the less challenges you have. For example, here they are working at 48 volt, because again, this helps in the direction of less heat generation. And there is a commonality with automotive, because you know automotive is moving into the 48 volt. Last but not least is the network flow. And again, here you need the sensor and actuation, because it's important for the robot. You can imagine you have data transmission real time. You need speed is important, and efficiency is important. Now let's go to my baby, which is the automotive. And talking about energy efficiency, of course we brought as an example the battery, the EV. And this is important. You can imagine as simple as user, because of the mileage, because of the performance. The thermal flow is absolutely important, because in the automotive you will have an impact on reliability, you will have an impact on power density, because again you want to pack as much as you can. When we go to the network, here is the network flow. He's quite, let's say, it's quite simple, but it's really important. Because in automotive, you need too much to do if you want to simplify the concept. You need basically to sense, you need to make a decision, and you need an actuation. But you need to do in a very safe way because, you know, EV is not like a mobile phone with 4 wheels. This is, unfortunately, we have experienced in some region. Now, after this story, what is my takeaway in terms of how do I see the automotive? The automotive I see is driven by, let's say, 2 forces. One is the electrification, another is the AI. Clearly there are similarities, but there are specificities that can apply only automotive. So reliability, mission profile, whatever you mentioned is very specific. So what is important is, as for ST, we play in all the grounds, we have experience, and we can, let's say, expedite the learning curve because we cross-fertilize the segment. We say power efficiency from conversion to digital power distribution, data creation because we have sensing and imaging, and real-time control with the MCU. And okay, what I have reported here is we enable the vehicle to evolve from an electrical system into an energy-efficient, intelligent, and data-driven system from SDV to ADV. My last chart will be why we are here, because convergence is unrelated to here, but why we are here. Because we want to work with startup. Because we need startup. We are a giant, but we need startup. Why we need? Simple. Speed and agility. For sure, a startup will be more agile than a large organization. I'm not inventing nothing. Or we need innovation or expertise in some specific area where it's difficult to find internal, so we need to acquire from external. Collaboration to explore new field, because market is very dynamic. We will not have the speed to explore everything. And we don't want to miss anything. So this is why the cooperation is important. And then, for example, a new business model a bit far away from us, like subscription service for the car, etc., etc. So this is how personal and how we see the convergence in those three domains. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicola. It's a pleasure having you with us today and hearing all these insights. Next up, we'll dive into the chemical industry a little bit. Who's from the chemical industry? Just asking to get to know you a little bit. Perfect. So some that are not too familiar, and that's actually what makes it even more exciting. So we'll have the ChemX project on stage today. And we welcome on stage Thorsten Freund, head of PMO. Watch out. And he'll talk about the digitization for competitive, sustainable, and resilient companies. So give it a round of applause.
Thank you so much. So why am I standing here where representing a company who has been a startup 165 years ago? So there is still innovation coming from the established industries, and let's have a look into that in the next 10 minutes. Much drivers of the innovation is coming from regulation. So about 2 years ago, we have seen a lot of regulation coming from the EU on the chemical industry, which is already highly regulated, and we were thinking, hey, how can we cope with all this data we need to transfer to fulfill these regulations, especially when digital product passports, digital twins are coming. And the products of the chemical industry are pretty much present everywhere. So 96% of a study, according to our industry representation, are in the, with chemical industry. So pretty much everything. So who has an idea where no chemicals are in? That will be worth a dinner with me. Any ideas? No, definitely. So this question is always cheap because there is no really a product on the market which does not need chemicals in it, or materials. Robots, electronics, batteries, cars, everything. So consequently, we need to deal with the situation that the information transfer has to happen in the chemical industry. And the problem today is that we have very long value chains. We're starting with oil, gas, minerals, or with biogenic products from palm plantations. Transfer the products through refineries, through chemical processes into some industrial materials. Here's the example of food packaging, which has several ingredients like a sheet material, glues, or an ink. And at the end of the day, that needs to be recycled. This whole chain has processes in it which needs information. And this information is today transferred by email, by Excel sheets exchanged, by telephone calls in a non-standardized manner. And this chain breaks. This chain is inefficient and it takes a lot of effort with human interaction. So the solution is now being developed by a number of partners where there was the opportunity of funding from the European Union and the German government. That's pretty much the consortium of the chemical industry in Germany, plus technology providers like SAP, Siemens, like startups who have very cool ideas on data space technology and digitization and the authentication and verification of data, plus associated partners going internationally, going broader into the downstream industries. We are running here not a startup, rather than a project, which ends in later this year, and combining a lot of expertise from the industry in order to solve this problem of data. So what needs to be solved? The chemical industry is the center of pretty much everything, and data requirements are all around us. From different industries, from the regulator, from the standardization organizations, and from the consumers who want to know what is in my product. How can I recycle my product? What's the longevity of my product? This information has to be measured based on primary data that we are in the position of steering the value chains and driving value chains towards a more sustainable and circular impact. If you look more in detail, this is a quite different approach. Today we are speaking mostly about products going to the market. That's on the right side of the chart, where you have products which are unique and are accompanied by information uniquely until the end they are recycled. However, the manufacturing before them is very highly branched and the information has to travel with the materials. If you want to handle such a complexity, it cannot be done manually. It must be organized in a structured manner. And let's have a look into one of the extracts, such a triplet. We're talking now about the information transfer. A couple of things need to be organized in order to be efficient and reduce the manual effort. Number one is that we need to have the technical connector to digitalize the whole information chain. Number two, we need to identify who is in the value chain, the operators, without disclosing the whole value chain. So only those who are directly connected because of antitrust law must talk with each other, but no one shall know the supplier of your supplier. The third thing what we need to standardize is the attributes of the data which are there. If everybody talks about the same thing in a standardized manner, we have all the same language, we can differentiate between the good and the bad. We can authenticate the data, and data have trust, they are verified. And then we can compare the performance of the one product with the other one and make our choices to build efficient value chains. And in the end, we need to make sure that the accounting processes within the industry are according to the same rigorous as the financial standards. And in the end, the customer is going to say what they need to know and what they will deserve to know. The part where if we go up in the level, what does that method impact on the system? Today, everybody is speaking with everyone in these chains. That means that we have an end-to-end relationship. These relationships can be reduced into a one-to-end relationship. If we have a standard, if you're talking the same thing, you can definitely use produce the data once, use many. That is the efficiency of the data spaces we are going to develop in this consortium. And that this is not just a vision or thinking, we have done it. We have 6 use cases really electrified and built in many stages of subsequent chemical industries. We have produced it into digital product passport for downstreams, in paints, in textiles, in automotive use cases. It works. So here we are at the bench of the industrial implementation of a network, which is going not only to drive sustainability and circularity, but the main driver for us as the industry is to save cost. We are estimating that we can save about 1 to 3 billion on the industry level in Europe, and that means the competitiveness of the chemical industry sees another piece of the puzzle to become more sustainable in the future, even economically. So in the end, we have seen that there is an innovation coming from a very traditional industry in the digital field. We have seen that there is a value in the whole project for the entire industry and for the downstreams. So we want to talk with those who are consuming the data from ChemX to understand better the need of our customers. And we would like to speak with partners in the digital startup arena for digitalization who can take over such concepts we are developing now for the industrialization and services for partners who want to implement it. This is now the opportunity to speak with each other. We are here at the booth in the next room, in the right corner. So thank you very much for your attention, and I hope we will speak soon to make it happen.
Thank you so much, Torsten. And as he said, please go visit the booth. It's in the room with all the projects and pilots, and really go talk to them to learn from this consortium. I think it's really special how these companies are coming together with similar problems and just working on the solution. So you don't always just see this corporate and startup working together, but also consortia being built up with companies. We'll dive into the next topic of this stage, which is dual use, which is probably a bit sensitive for many of us, but it's a trend and it's a real thing that we need to talk about. And we will have a panel discussion on this. And I'm really excited to hear all the insights and what's actually really going on in the discussions. So welcome with me on stage Jan from Capgemini, who will be moderating this discussion. Robert from Bosch in Murrhardt, it's a special location, he will talk about that. And Maurice Sebastian from DXC Technologies. DXC Technology, apologies. Welcome on stage.
Okay, you can hear me, I guess. First of all, thank you very much for joining this panel. And actually, I have bad news for you. We will not cover the whole dual-use universe in just 15 minutes. Instead, we concentrate on just one question. How can we kind of transfer automotive excellence to really deployable and resilient military capability, because that's the key here. Well, if we look at this from the automotive perspective, we know that automotive can scale. You can produce at quality and so on and so on, and it's more and more, it's becoming a software-driven business. In defense, however, we do need scale. We do need quality of production, and it's also more becoming software-driven. However, we have to see reality on the battlefield. We talk about mission assurance. We talk about hardening. We talk about confidentiality. We talk about NATO interoperability and so on. So non-functionals, no one really likes. And in this panel, we look at this from basically 3 layers. The basement, the industry layer, can we build and scale? Second, the mission layer, can we make it mission ready? Can it survive on a battlefield? And finally, the resilience layer, and this is new to us in defense, can it adapt under pressure and at speed? And I'm very happy to have our panelists here. First of all, we have Robert Groß from Bosch Moorhardt. And I have to look it up what you have given me as your intro. He brings the industrialization perspective. So specialized, small, serious production, flexible production networks. And finally, he works as an industrialization partner for ramp up, for startups, and so on. So this is for the industrialization side. On the software side, we have Maurice Sebastian from DXC Technologies here, and he brings a software and compute platform to us. So he will talk about middleware, operating platforms, and so on. And he will talk about also a little bit, what does it take to bring the software-defined vehicle perspective to dual use and to defense. Okay, so welcome you guys on stage. And we just dive into the first topic, industrialization. So Robert, from your perspective as a small, serious industrialization specialist, what is it, what's the capability that you can bring into defense?
So thank you very much, Jan. As you already mentioned, we are not Bosch Feuerbach or Bosch Reutlingen, so these huge plants with thousands of workers. So we are a small plant with some 100 workers only, and we are specialists in complex parts, complex manufacturing, assembly and parts manufacturing, and that is exactly our value proposition to the customer, that you can come to us from the idea to the final product, and we will make everything for you, from purchasing, the whole supply chain, engineering. We support with engineering, but the core is manufacturing and assembly, and also the worldwide shipping. And our comfort zone is hundreds or thousands of pieces. So not as the big plants, millions of pieces, thousands of pieces. And that's exactly, if you look at the wish list of the defense primes, that's exactly the quantities what they have today. So where we say, okay, this is something where it could resonate, where we could offer a certain scalability and the excellence of the automotive industry, but that's where we also comes with startups into place, but with the flexibility of the German Mittelstand, because we are a small company in the big company.
So actually, this is what I learned from Robert in simple words. Defense mass production is small scale for you. So let's look at the software side. When we say small scale production and so on, what does the software side need to contribute to keep those systems up to date, that they stay relevant actually?
Yeah, that's a good question. First of all, I would even challenge this question a little bit by saying software is not just contributing. It's not just a contributor anymore in a software-driven or software-defined innovation. It's more or less the key driver of the whole thing. Where you had hardware, electronics, mechanics before, you now have software which defines the functional view of the world. So that's a basic paradigm shift that we are seeing and that we need to transfer from the SDV, from the software-defined vehicle domain to other domains like the defense. From a technological point of view, we are seeing different trends or different pillars, as we typically call it, to make that finally and effectively happen. One thing that we need to do, and that has been ignored in the automotive industry for a while, for a long time as well, is we need to separate between hardware and software. So we need to make our software development agnostic from the hardware. Then you can do a real software-driven development, you can update your software, update your function. We need to unify our software in a certain extent. That's the second pillar. Yeah, so we need to define the right interfaces, the right platform stacks, middleware, operating systems, etc., to have a common view onto the software. And third, we need to decouple then also the life cycle of hardware and software. Yeah, while you do that typically hand in hand with hardware, software co-design, in the software-defined vehicle world, you have to decouple that and have your life cycle for the hardware decoupled from the software life cycle.
Okay, thank you, Maurice. So in simple words, while industrialization gives us scale, software gives us the adaptability that we urgently need. Okay, guys, this was your comfort zone. let's move out of that. So it's nice that we have industrialization, right? And it's nice that we have a software-driven capability. However, that does not make us mission ready. So let's talk about certification, let's talk about sovereignty, let's talk about interoperability, and so on. So, Maurice, how do you cope with these challenges? Or in other words, where does the automotive software logic break when we go to defense?
The simple answer here is, I would say, it breaks everywhere where we have automotive-specific processes, right? The first question was more or less addressing this challenge from a technical perspective, and I see a big overlap, a huge overlap between the defense and the automotive and also other industries when it comes to software-driven innovation. But we have we have many automotive-specific aspects in our development processes where we need the right transfer into the defense world at the end. Examples are safety and security. So we have safety and security in both worlds, but I think they differ significantly, right? What you see, if you have a car, you have to have a certain safety in place that prevents the car from crashing. Otherwise, of course, you have a certain number of facilities. It's not the same as when a defense system is misbehaving or behaving in an unintended way. Same for security. So I think that's maybe the main or the major part that we need to look at. Another one, also very important one, because the automotive industry was ignoring that for a while as well. We need to consider the entire environment. And the environment differs in the defense world compared to the automotive world. The automotive car is more or less a self-sufficient unit, while a defense system is way bigger. Yeah, it has an entire battlefield scenario, so you need to incorporate that in your software view to come up with efficient solutions.
Okay, so that sounds a little bit more challenging. So what I understood is that it's not a technical problem of the software itself. It's more the challenge to prove that an ever-changing system is not misbehaving or secure. So that brings us actually to the industrialization side again. So if software requires faster cycles, and on the other hand, we see on a battlefield, hardware is really old. So tanks are about 40 to 50 years old. So how can we deal with this gap on the industrialization side of things, Robert?
I think that's a very easy and very difficult question at the same time, because I think acting and doing something according to specs, so if some company like, I don't know, Rheinmetall or somebody would come and would say, look, I need a part for an old tank. I think that is for a car manufacturer or for an industry company not too difficult. You have to build something according to spec. That's not a big problem. The problem only starts there because the car manufacturers are good at that. Sometimes you just have to go maybe to a different department, because if you go to your colleagues who make old-timer parts, they have this exact challenge the whole day. That somebody comes to you and say, okay, this is a very old part, it's still in the market, it's a very old vintage car. Can you rebuild it? Yes, we can. So that's not the problem. The challenge starts when you have to discuss together with a prime, so with somebody like Rheinmetall, because we cannot certify it in the market. So we cannot bring this product in the market and then say, look, now it works for tanks. So we can only give it to the prime, and then he has to certify with the Bundeswehr or something the whole system. So at the end of the day, I would say that's not a technical challenge. It's a challenge of how to work together.
So, in other words, it could be actually kind of a lifetime extender, what you're doing, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Provided that someone else does the integration piece. Yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay, so now we have come to a point where we have the automotive industry or automotive excellence on the battlefield. Okay, so far so good. We are mission ready. However, now comes the real challenge. Mission assurance makes us slow. That's the bad news. Certification, security, hardening, and so on does not speed up the process. However, if you look at current warfare, adaptation on the battlefield is key and needs to be speed up. So question is actually, how can we actually deal with this contradiction? And so how can we build a product that's really resilient in terms of military? So many people think about product resilience then, right, Robert? But I'm afraid there's even more to it, isn't it?
Exactly. So actually, for me, it was, let's say, a surprising event when we discussed about what exactly is in the media, that at some point, maybe we are in a war. Hopefully not. And at that point, with a very important colleague of mine, I discussed the situation that, yeah, well, we joked, maybe we see each other on the battlefield. And he said, no, we won't, because I will be in the THW. And then something started to click. So wait a moment. One thing about resilience, there are several things. Of course, you need to have an independent production under stress. Yes, so you need maybe work time flexibility. You need flexible lines, flexible employees, a little bit of energy. So our oil tank, for example, is full in a sense when we lose external electricity, that at least we can operate and ship the products and organize the shutdown. But on the other hand, you need the employees. And I would recommend to everybody of you, just look at the top 10% of your employees and ask them the question, are you in the THW? Are you in the Feuerwehr, so the fire department, or maybe are you even in the Reserve as a soldier? And in the top 10% of the employees, I will bet with you that a surprisingly high number, because these are the intrinsic motivated, are in exactly these. And in a catastrophe situation, these are gone, because they are either in the military, in the THW, or in the fire department. So what do you do when you're missing exactly these critical employees? And I would say resilience is also to let your plant operate under this stress. And you need to have answers, you need to find answers, they are not easy. And I cannot say we are there, we are just starting to put the right question into that.
Yeah, so I think we learned that resilience starts way before the product, right? But let's move to the product itself, a resilient or really resilient product that's capable to be adapted under stress. That brings us to the software side again, Maurice. So what is it exactly? How could this challenge be solved? Mission assurance versus adaptation at speed under fire.
So when you look at a system, you typically don't have a standalone embedded unit, right? Where you have your software running on the unit only. You typically have a system that consists of an embedded part, of an edge part, and of a cloud part. And we mentioned this battlefield scenario already for defense applications, where huge parts come from the cloud, from external sensors, external data fed into the system under consideration. So this mixture of different systems need to be balanced in the right way. That means you have to be able to cope with failures of specific parts of the system, like, for example, a connectivity system problem of the cloud within your embedded system at the end by itself. And an example here is what we typically do in automotive, autonomous drive. Yeah, which is a highly safety critical system, which relies on external data, which relies on high performance computers inside the car, which might also not be 100% reliable and resilient. And in that case, you always have to ensure that you have some sort of degraded operation mode. So degraded operation mode is key to ensuring resilience and reliability. It's not easy, of course, because, I mean, look at automotive. What you typically do in automotive when your autonomous drive system fails, you have a degradation mode that parks the car, that drives the car to the right side of the street, and it stands. It's safe. Imagine that happens on a battlefield. That's not necessarily good, right? If the tank just stops. Could be a risk for the team in there as well. So you have to come up with other degradation modes, other models. That's a tricky part of the transfer at the end, right? But degradation is key here to ensuring reliability, resilience, and that need to be ensured throughout the entire system design. It's not a one shot in a specific phase. You have standards which all along the V model, all along the development process, ensure that this reliable mode is really maintained and implemented in the system.
Okay, so we see the problem is quite complex, and it's not about cloud versus edge. It's about synchronization between connected, degraded, and even disconnected nodes. So as far as the resilience is concerned, we actually look at two sides of a problem, right? One is the production resilience, so being able to keep a production under stress, and the second is the product resilience, that the product itself can adapt or it can survive on the battlefield in a so-called DDIL environment. So that friction between mission assurance and the adaptability, I think you guys quite left that out a bit, but I agree that it's not solved already. So we have no silver bullet to solve that mission assurance versus a speedy adaptability problem. No way. So that brings us to the end of our panel, I'm afraid. So one sentence each, please. What is it from your point of view that we need to build in order to transfer the automotive excellence to the battlefield? Robert, you might first.
Thank you. So from hardware side, I would say, in my perspective, the ingredients are there. So the potential is there, but, and I see some companies, because I'm looking at the Schaeffler colleague, who are already making significant progress. We are there, so we're going into the right direction, but we need to work more closely together. So we need to put a lot of more effort and maybe also on a higher level to it. So over company.
I will put it in one sentence, and then I explain the sentence, right? So the sentence would be build a software organization. And that sounds very trivial, but it's exactly where the automotive industry failed or was struggling for a long time. Building a software organization does not simply mean you build up departments and you nominate or you staff it with people. You have to build up the right mindset. You have to build up the right culture, and you have to become a real software company instead of a typical classical car, defense, or whatever company. And if we look at the companies which we are always referring to when it comes to the real software-defined vehicle, those are typically US-based companies from California. They are software companies. They started with a software perspective, software mindset, not with a mechanical one. And that's what I mean with build a software company, start with that angle, and then the chances for success are increasing significantly.
Okay, so thank you, Maurice. We definitely should define the semantics of the number one again, but that's all right. My three takeaways from that panel are on the industrial level. We just need to put the pieces together, right? The scale is needed and the right amount of scale is there. We just need to put it together. On the software side, the software creates adaptability. That's great. But still we have to cope with the hardware boundaries like power, like space, and so on. There's not so much of that in a tank, definitely not. And finally, the mission assurance versus adaptability problem still remains. So when we look at our three layers, industry, mission, and resilience layer, I don't think it's another component that's needed. It's just about, let's say, the architecture that's needed to glue all that together in order to bring automotive excellence to the battlefield in a sovereign way. Thank you very much. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Maurice.
Thank you, Jan.
Thanks, Jan.
Thank you to all three of you for these amazing insights. You can just hand the microphones to my colleague, exactly. And everything that we've been hearing so far, just to let you know, everything's being recorded right now. So there's been a lot of interesting topics, very diverse topics. So we'll share that afterwards, and you can rewatch and also share it internally in your organizations. And I saw a lot of you listening very carefully because you don't hear about dual use every single day, of course, so that's something new. Now we will actually switch topics entirely, so going away from automotive, advanced manufacturing, mobility topics, and moving into insurance. So if we can switch maybe the slide. And it's a very special segment for us from the Munich team, as we've been contributing. So a lot of work has been going into that, and it reflects also the last months of our program and everything that we've been doing. And I'm very excited to hand over to my colleague for the InsurTech Expo Day. We are celebrating the culmination of the startups and much more beyond that. So please welcome with me Katja Roskova. She's leading our InsurTech program in Europe, and we're excited to hear a lot of trends. She's doing a really great job here, so you can be excited about the trend report and much more. So shout out to Katja.
Thank you so much, Christina, for such a warm introduction and for setting the stage for our very exciting segment, insurance, and I'm really pleased to kick it off. But before I'm going to give my traditional trends overview, which I always do at our expo, so every half a year at our events here at Plug and Play, I wanted to take a quick step back and actually put the insurance vertical into perspective, where it stands with Plug and Play, and a bit about our history. So as you know, at Plug and Play, we work with more than 60 sectors, more than 60 markets. There are only some of them here on the screen. It's a cross-vertical stage, so you heard some insights from deep tech, dual use. Insurance is historically at the very core of Plug and Play operations. We started the vertical in 2016, so it's actually 10 years now that we're working with insurance companies, so carriers, reinsurance, brokers across the globe. Currently, we have more than 40 partners on our platform, and again, we're servicing all markets. The backbone of our insurance vertical is our acceleration program for startups that we do out of our Munich office for EMEA-based companies and out of our Silicon Valley office for the startups based in Americas. And today, so apart from Munich and Silicon Valley, we also have very strong partnerships happening in London, but also Paris, Vienna, which are not yet on the map here, as well as Beijing and Tokyo. So we have a truly global approach and global insights. And with that, I wanted to skip through to the exciting part, the trends. So every half a year, we do an exercise in our InsurTech team at Plug and Play in collaboration with our office in the Silicon Valley. So we always try to quantify innovation in the sector. And innovation is really tough to quantify sometimes. So we think that a very good proxy for the level of innovation, the speed of innovation in a particular sector, is the capital inflow in the new technologies that shaping up insurance in this respect. That's why don't be confused. That's why we're kicking off our trends presentation with some numbers, some graphs. So here you can see all the capital inflow in InsurTech across the globe on the left-hand side. And the interesting insight from there that we see that the pace of innovation actually slowed down, and it's been a bit in stagnation since 2023. And even though we don't have the new numbers for the current year, by first quarter you can already see that probably the dynamics this year is not going to be much better. This is the environment we're operating in. It's relevant for our insurance carriers in the room. It's relevant for startups as well to know what is the market you're building in. And I also like to always show a few biggest investment rounds that are happening specifically in Europe, just to show what type of technologies are reaching high maturity levels. And in the last quarter, we had 4 big deals happening here in EMEA. One is Alan, probably you heard of it. It's a digital health scale-up based in Paris, the biggest round of the last quarter. Mia, the data orchestration platform from the UK. Artificial Labs, the smart underwriting co-pilot, also based in London. And lastly, the pet insurance from Sweden. Again, it doesn't mean you necessarily have to explore partnerships with those companies, but it's good to see where the market stands with regards to specific topics and what level of maturity they are. And another exercise that I like doing is to go through all the investment rounds that were made public and try to analyze what are actually the topics that investors are interested in. Because Plug and Play is investor at our core, and we've been investing in startups for over 20 years now. We're specialized on early stage investing, meaning that we're the ones getting to the very new technologies as in the first place. And those are some of the rounds that also happened across the globe, grouped by certain topics. And an interesting learning here as well, that we speak a lot about AI automation and AI workflow automation specifically. So this really truly horizontal layer that insurers are partnering with right now. And those are the topics that are still dominant, they're super relevant. We see big rounds happening in the sector. However, we see a resurrection, I would even say, of MGA models, for example, specifically targeting automotive, commercial insurance, so SMEs as one of the segments. Another interesting learning that we see, the involvement of AI native business models in the sector, which is also something completely new. For example, AI native brokers or digital TPAs. Or even AI native full stack insurers, so startups attempting to wipe out the whole segment, such as SMEs, which is, I think, the most popular topic these days. And yeah, I think we can skip slides. An important question, why we're talking about this, why we're analyzing all the deals. We bring our knowledge and we map it out always on insurance value chain. And of course, the pace of innovation in insurance is not as fast as to change this every month, but we are trying to always find the newest things. And here you can see the full insurance value chain with the product management as the first step of it, with the new technologies that has been shaping the industry in the last month, or let's say last half a year. And I'm not going to focus on all of them individually, but just to highlight a few that I think are the most exciting ones. For example, in claims management, we are talking about the relevance of multimodality as one of the advancements in AI in general, right? So when you can when it's not just the text input, but also video or speech, and you can get an output, say, on your your claims team, right? So this is a very highly relevant trend, and one of the companies that is in the space currently building also our portfolio is Archetype AI. And another thing that I wanted to focus on, for example, in the product management space, a new type of insurance evolving, so insurance for your AI agents, right? And again, we haven't seen it happen across traditional insurance players, but startups are really catching up. And I think it's a matter of few months that we have really like a big solution in the space with like lots of partnerships and proven track record. So yeah, just to name a few. And it's a lot of text on the slide, so I'll just explain everything. And then we also like to reformulate all these new technologies, all these topics that are really dominating the market onto the opportunities for insurers. Concretely, what should we do? What is everyone else doing? And here, so we usually pick 6 of the trends. Of course, there are more of them, depends at what angle you analyze. But the most important thing is that within AI space, we really see a lot of agentic AI solutions for operational level. And an interesting thing to see that finally it's past the stage of experimenting and it's really fully on into adapting and scaling stages. Coming with a certain risks, but again, it's like a big development in the market this year specifically. Then we also see insurers trying to capture different market segments, for example, younger generations, specifically for products like life and health insurance, but more life than health. And the main idea here is that the younger generations, they have very high requirements for their insurance providers. They want the experience to be hyper-personalized, hyper-digitized. And the sector of life insurance has not been that, life insurance in general in Europe is not that widely spread. And this is really critical to capture this market niche. And so we see a lot of digitization in the life insurance space specifically. And yeah, AI native carriers I already spoke about. And then on the other three trends, I wanted to make a bit more of a focus in my next 3 slides. So everything around underwriting, again, we feel it's no longer anything new, but finally those type of solutions are actually scaling within companies. So we're talking about continuous underwriting, we're talking about dynamic data integration, where you can receive and analyze large amount of data in real time. And we see a lot of underwriting co-pilots. So instead of using a special software for your underwriting team, you have a co-pilot who is supporting their work. Another thing that is also very important today is that it all depends on the quality of your data and the preparedness of your systems for the AI era. And it was really interesting to see that a lot of financial services companies, so this is not specific to insurers, but in general, everyone in the financial services sector. So from bottom up, you can see how, if they adopted open standards. And open standards for data means if you can exchange data freely between your departments or within your own organization. And it's really interesting to see that the majority of companies are still at the bottom, so they don't really have the capability of exchanging data. They're built on legacy systems, and this is a big question for tomorrow. Are we really prepared to scale AI applications if we are operating on the legacy systems that are not that lack interoperability? And the third one, also wrapping up here really quickly, being mindful of time. So here we have 2 different trends happening. On the one hand side, we see AI native full stack insurers that are trying to take home markets. They are very fast, very efficient, especially when it comes to distribution and getting to their target groups. I put a few names of a few companies. They're all US based, so it's going to come for Europe as well at some point. And then on the other side, we also see a lot of modular innovation that can plug in really nicely into your distribution channels. And I just handpicked a few trends that I think are going to be really shaping insurance space in the next few months. For example, generative search optimization, when you can, when the idea here is that policyholders of the future are not going to be Googling, but are going to be using ChatGPT to find their insurance carriers. And you want to make sure you're somewhere on top of the search. Same with empowering brokers with AI capabilities. We see I already mentioned AI native brokers model emerging, and it could be really a good way to be more efficient in pushing your policies onto the new markets. Building an ecosystem, so everything along embedded insurance topic. Again, nothing new, but the trend that I've been seeing in this space is that a lot of carriers are moving, instead of building their own capability, they're moving to acquire well-funded startups in the space, and thus acquiring those capabilities. And another, of course, everything about knowing your customer inside out, being able to react real time to, for example, their big life changes, moving to a new flat, changing a job, and being there with customized offers for additional cross-selling opportunities. So this brings me to the end of my presentation. If we're not connected yet on LinkedIn, let's connect and speak more about insurance trends. And back to you, Christina. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Katja. It's a pleasure to be working with you because Katja, she really brings tremendous insights and expertise to our insurance platform. So if you have questions, please approach her and talk to her. We'll stay in AI in insurance. So there's a lot happening. There's a lot that is affecting the market. And I think in the insurance industry, there's a lot we still need to do. So it's exciting. And we'll dive into our keynote for today for the Insurance Expo. So speaking about exactly AI in InsurTech, please welcome with me on stage Dr. Michael Wächter. He's the Managing Director for the Digital Impact Labs in Leipzig from Germany.
Yes, thank you very much for this introduction. And I know I have a bit provocative title today, Save 300,000 euros in 5 days with Gen AI, but the number is true. But the real story doesn't go about the number. The real story is in the people and in the process we do. And the figure is real, but that's not the point. The point is how we get there. And if you only remember the number when you go out to this talk, then you get the wrong informations. Our core belief is that the successful use of AI is not in technology, but in the people who use it. We need the skills in the companies, and we need a right organization of Gen AI in the companies. Everything of you know, 2016, the innovation hype with design thinking and labs increase in all companies. There are workshops with sticky notes, but on the next day, the leader comes and says, we do business as usual. And one point, because that happened, is that the wrong organization from innovation in the companies are. We need we need the skills on the bottom by the employees and not in a team which is only claimed this skills, and nobody of the employees come to them and want to do innovation. The real problem we see is that most Gen AI initiatives do not fail because of the technology, because of the use cases from the top. The managers get use cases from the top which get delivered without asking the employees for the real problems. They give licenses to the people and only 20% of the employees use it, but they don't know how and for what. And one central team, it's one AI team with 3 people, and they only have the skills, but the employees have the skills not. And our thesis is the impact of Gen AI emerges in the specialist departments where the problems lie, and therefore we have the approach to skill up promoters at the base level, promoters, multiplicators, you name it. And therefore we have 4 weeks ago Gen AI Promoters Bootcamp with an insurance company here in Stuttgart. 5 days we guide them to the whole process from ideate use cases, analyze use cases, and develop prototypes, test it with the colleagues, and then get a good get a good result, and that's a very high effect, which ended in this 300,000 euros of saving. What do the promoters can do? They identify, analyze, prioritize, building prototypes, testing with the target groups, and take it away to supporting the staff, the other employers, and so you have a multiplication of the skills in the whole company and not only one team with 5 people. So what we do? We do 3 subgroups. They went through the whole process, and January 3 prototypes with this 300,000 euro of savings. in 5 days, but this return of investment was a byproduct. Skill level up was the goal. We don't want to save this money, but it was a side product of our process. And one of the promoters, until the last 5 weeks, saved 1.5 million with 3 prototypes they developed in this time after this 5 days. And we use Microsoft 365, no extra tool, only this suite with the GenAI in it. And that's the conclusion. Transformation is achieved through people, not by licenses, and qualification is not the cost factor. We must enable the promoters, and the ROE follows the competences in the company. When we don't have the competences, we don't can run the potential of GenAI in the company. That's our training for promoters, not a seminar. It's an implementation, 6 days, not 5, because we implement more detailed the build of agents and workflows, because in workflows there are much more potentials than in agents, and you can implement it without any other software. And they create a full process by prioritizing the use cases in feasibility and compliance, advanced prompting capabilities, implement agents, scalable and tested prototypes in form of mini apps or agent solutions, business case, structured documentation, and skills for dealing with resistance in the organization, because that's a very big point that many people are angry about their jobs when they hear the GenAI makes my jobs in the future. More than 80% application and reflection, only a few impulses from us, because when you want to learn something, you have to do it. Yeah, and that's the end when you want to connect. Sorry for my English and German. I could tell you much more about it, but yeah, thank you.
So, thank you so much. You were quicker than expected. I just got some water. But yeah, diving into the next session for this InsurTech Expo, which is our panel discussion. So we'll dive into intelligent scale, how AI and automation shape the new era of insurance. So welcome on stage Katja, and she'll explain everything, and welcome the speakers on stage.
Christina, it's me again. So in the trend session earlier, we were speaking about the technologies that are just emerging and starting to shape the insurance industry. So young startups, more mature scale-ups that are building point solutions. And the next conversation that we're going to have now is going to be about scale. What it takes actually for insurance businesses to go from pilots and proof of concepts to integrating AI in their core operations, into underwriting, in the claims and distribution that we spoke about. Today I've got 3 people on stage who sit at very different points of insurance value chain. We have 2 prominent insurers, Irish Life and BNP Paribas Cardiff, and the technology partner, DXC Technology, that actually has to make AI run in production. And with that, I want to announce our next panel, how AI and automation shape the new era of insurance. So we're lacking the microphones a bit, so we'll have to pass one of them to each other. I'll have to be passing microphone to you. Okay, perfect. So welcome, and thank you so much for joining the panel today. So first, I would kindly ask you to briefly introduce yourself and describe the single biggest milestone of integrating AI within your organization, maybe, just to get things off the ground.
I'm Chris Curran from Irish Life. I work in the innovation unit, and I work with all the AI teams to help them develop pilots and ideas and integrate them. The best thing that we've done is we developed a claims assist engine that transformed, like we're now paying claims in minutes and hours as opposed to weeks and months, which is what it used to take. So it's actually won awards. We're incredibly proud of it. It's made all our careers, and we're very excited about it. So.
Hi there, my name's Andrew Loach. I work for DXC, one of the partners for Plug and Play. I work in insurance, have done for many years, and I'm responsible for helping DXC grow its insurance business and help the customers of DXC grow their business as well. So that's my role. I'm based in Lloyd's of London. That's where I work most days. And my job is to, and we've got 1,900 insurance customers, 1,900 across the globe. General insurance, specialty insurance, life insurance. And our job is to help them move from pilot to production. And the biggest thing that we help them do is to help them with their legacy and technology debt. Because if you don't get that right, then it's very difficult to scale AI. So most of what we do is help them get AI ready. That's one half. The other half is what we do is then we provide them with the tools and technology to accelerate through AI workbenches, accelerate the adoption at scale of AI. So, and we've got many thousand people that do that across all sorts of insurance companies and many other industries as well. So that's what DXC does.
Hello everyone, I'm Stefan Neupert and I'm representing BNP Paribas Cardiff today. We are a solely exclusive B2B2C insurer. And of course, for us is automation and AI, as we discussed today, super important for our future business. One really great example we have developed in the recent years is that we introduced by last year a full parametric insurance product. What does it mean? If a customer has a claim, it's automatically detected and also settled. And of course, this is super convenient for the end customer and our partners. And also, our claims management process is fully automated, so we're saving a lot on both sides. And happy to have the other discussion with you guys here today.
Thank you so much, Stefan. Thank you for introductions. Okay, then let's dive right in. Stefan, my first question is for you, actually. You are a leader in mobility and partnerships at BNP Paribas Cardiff. And you know, as no one else, that AI and automation is really key to embedding insurance seamlessly into holistic digital ecosystems. So the question is the following. How do you feel that AI opens up entirely new markets and distribution channels for Cardiff? Sorry.
Thank you, Katja. Super question. We believe that automation and AI is really changing the economics of partnerships. So we are exclusively, as mentioned, working with partners to distribute insurance, to develop it. And it's all about embedding insurance in the ecosystem of our partners. So we believe that in automation and AI support, it can be much more easier to lower the levels for our partners to embed insurance. On the other side, it's also more easy for us to provide embedded solutions to the market and also to new areas and new partners and customers. And this is really super interesting because of course, there's an element of automation in the first place. And if we have done the automation part, then we could also put in more intelligence. So it's for us more a discussion about not only productivity, but really to looking into totally new areas of business we can do when we reach the levels of automation and AI support we are targeting for.
Sorry about the inconvenience. Okay. Chris, my next question is for you. So looking at the customer journey in Irish Life or in general, we see how AI is moving from reactive to really proactive customer engagement. Where do you personally see the most exciting opportunity for AI models to fundamentally change how customers experience and trust their insurance partner?
Okay, I think there are kind of three concepts that I think about. One is from an article by Mark Andreessen a few years ago, which talks about how AI gets rolled out. And I'm massively simplifying what he said, but it's basically Horizon 1, everything gets automated. Horizon 2, new products become possible. Horizon 3, God knows what's going to happen to society and culture. Okay. The second concept, I think, is about AI maturity in organizations. So there's early stage, which is doing loads of cool pilots and using ChatGPT to write poetry about your CEO. Then end stage is kind of AI native or AI very heavily AI enabled. And then there's this really messy bit in the middle that we're all trying to get across, that rewiring of your organization, of changing budgets and IT structures and reporting and ownership. And that is what everybody is wrestling with at the moment. I haven't seen anyone do it well, but everyone's trying, okay? And I guess the third kind of concept is this emerging battle, which you covered really well there, between AI native organizations starting in a greenfield site. Can they take on AI-enabled incumbents who have all the customers, who have massive regulation moats that they've hidden behind for years, and who's going to win in that arms race? And I think that's really exciting. But to bring it back to customer, I think who wins is who serves the customer better. And my fear is that existing insurance companies think about AI as, okay, well, we'll make underwriting a bit better, and we'll make claims a bit quicker, like we did, and we'll use it to cut some cost and automate some stuff. Whereas I think AI native organizations can potentially fundamentally, completely reinvent the product. And I think that's the really exciting thing. Customers care about price, they care about ease, and they care about personalization. And whoever can redrive meaningful, exciting change in that space is who will win. And I look forward to being part of the battle.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, Andrew, and the final answer goes to you. Question goes to you. You are a strategic global technology partner managing massive enterprise systems and working with a lot of big enterprise clients. In your view, what are the core infrastructure requirements for insurance companies that are looking to scale their AI reliably?
That's too hard, that quick. Can you ask me an easier one, please?
Sorry about that.
So we do it with large banks, insurance companies, and often they've got massive issues with legacy applications, legacy infrastructure, and it's really challenging for them. So what we see is a number of these customers, they develop pilots, but they're isolated. They sit by themselves and they can't connect to the data that they need to really make them shine. So the biggest thing we're doing is actually not about technology, it's actually helping build a business case for the use of AI, because most of them fall in love with the technology, and what we try and help them with is to fall in love with the problem that AI can solve. We mentioned it upstairs earlier. So walk around the problem more, understand it more from different facets, and look at the implications of the problem from a cost, risk, governance, compliance. Sometimes they rush, they look at something, they grab it, and they don't really try and understand how to gather evidence that what they want to fix with AI will actually deliver value. So they often skip that phase and they don't do it properly, and then when they try and justify significant investment, they can't convince the board. That's the biggest issue. So what we're trying to do is help them understand how they can build a business case to take cost out of their old, mature heritage systems, and then redirect the savings back into innovation programs. That's what I spend most of my time doing. Taking cost out of old so you can redirect it into new. And customers that do that well can very quickly gain an advantage if they focus their thinking about the customer. And most of the large organizations tend to focus about them, internal efficiencies, internal savings, not about what value it brings to the customer. Sometimes that's forgotten, literally, completely forgotten. So focus on the customer, take out of old, redirect into new. That's what we spend most of our time doing.
Thank you so much. And we're ready to wrap it up with one final question. You can answer in short or whatever you prefer. What is the one single AI opportunity that gets you excited to come to work every day?
Okay. So for me, this is a really hard question because there is no single one. At BNP Paribas Cardiff, we are having globally 90 use cases up and running in implementation. And what excites me most is that we still find a lot of new areas for testing, for prototyping, for new ideas to our customers. So it shows me the story is never ending and there is a lot of room where we can improve for our clients and partners.
Okay. Mine's nothing to do with business or insurance or financial services. I've always wanted to be an author, but I realized it would take forever to write a book. So I'm really excited about some of the new AI tools, which means I can write a book, AI aided, and then publish it on Amazon in about 2 weeks. And yes, so that's what I'm looking forward to. In a underserved niche, which if anyone wants to know, come and see me afterwards. So.
Can't wait. I think for me, as a customer, the exciting thing is I go to Claude with my $20 a month subscription. I give it all my bank statements, all my paychecks, everything, and I say, here's what I want to achieve in my life. Tell me what to do. And it comes up with a plan, and then it comes up with an execution as to what products I should buy. In that scenario, insurance gets completely commodified. So for me, when I'm talking to my colleagues in my insurance company, there is something about creating a meaningful ecosystem. We understand the customer probably better than Claude at the moment. We have data that the Claude doesn't have. We have an understanding of the product set. Can we create a kind of an ecosystem where you come for all your health and wealth needs that is engaging, that is competitive, and that is proactive in how it deals with you? If we can't do that, we could be in trouble.
Thank you so much. Okay, that was an incredible look at the high-velocity future. Thank you all for participating in the panel, and enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Thank you so much to the panel. And it's always good to hear from the corporate side what's really driving them, what's going on in the organizations, what trends do they see, what challenges they might have. Because, of course, we have lots of startups here in the room, and we'll have a segment on this very soon. But before we dive into that, we actually, as mentioned, we're growing our insurance ecosystem and platform. And I'm looking at the team because we are still looking for the partner that we've just added to the platform. The event is huge, and they have, of course, lots of meetings. So just give me a quick sign. Yeah, so we'll wait for the partner to join us, and we'll dive right into the startup pitches. So yeah, skipping that part very quickly. Over to the startup pitches, and we'll have again our expert Katja introducing all the teams.
Thank you so much. So thank you, Christina, for setting the stage for the main part of our insurance stage today, startup pitches. So from our Munich hub, we've been supporting InsurTech startups for 8 years now, connecting them to our wider partner network, insurers, carriers, brokers, connecting them with right investors, with right opportunities, and with their peers to exchange on the pains and experiences of building for very highly regulated environments. Since our kick-off event in February this year in London, and for the last few months, we've been accelerating 10 stellar teams. All of them built for different line of insurance. Some of them are even completely horizontal AI solutions, but they share one thing in common, their goal to transform the insurance industry. Today we'll hear pitches of 6 shortlisted startups. And first up, I want to invite on stage Liablix, the Italian team that turns crash scene chaos into physics-based truth, because insurance fraud does not stand a chance against hard science. And please welcome Davide, the CEO and founder of Liablix, on stage.
Thank you very much. Hi everyone. Every year, 1.7 trillion worth of motor claims are still analyzed manually or not checked at all. This means that fraud slips through, liability claims take forever to resolve, and insurance companies spend billions in inefficient handling of these claims. We built Liablix to change that. A couple of years ago, my co-founder Filippo Begani approached me asking me to automate the job he was doing manually for the last 20 years. He was a forensic expert for insurance companies to go with them in court or represent them in a liability case or fraudulent claims. So he asked me to produce a software that could automate his job, and we started with a simple POC on how to apply AI to car accident reconstruction. This POC was very successful. We published a paper at the time, and then we started working on and off on the research. Fast forward 3 years, now we are a team of 15 people. Our two other co-founders joined, Davide Moricoli, who is a second-time founder and CTO, and Daniele Colaiacomo, who has executive experience in big insurtech like Solera, Tractable, Video. And a team of 15 tech talents coming from big corporates like Bending Spoons that IPO'd today, and international research labs. But what is Liablix? So Liablix is a platform for automatic analysis of motor claims. Basically, from the images of the two cars after the accident, we are able to reconstruct the 3D scene and the environment of the accident, and to simulate the dynamics through a physics simulation engine. So today we are a vertical tool for motor claims analysis, but where we want to extend in the near future is also all the end-to-end pipeline of the motor claims. So starting from FNOL, first notification of loss, all the way up to settlement intelligence. Because we believe that having all the technical analysis covered, so injury analysis, liability analysis, fraud checks, and having all the information about how the policy coverage and how the accident happened, we would be able to better negotiate the terms with the policyholder. So how do we do that? So as I was saying, we have built a software that, starting from just 1 or 2 images of the vehicles, is able to reconstruct the 3D scene, finds the damages on top of the vehicles, and automatically finds the accident configuration. From that, it understands the compatibility checks, so it understands whether the two damages on the vehicles could have been caused one from another, and it goes also beyond that. So it also simulates the whole dynamic of the accident, helping insurance company to assess who's at fault, who was overspeeding, who failed to yield, and to estimate the bodily injury through biomechanical mapping of the bodies inside the vehicles. So one may say that this looks too futuristic and not applicable in the insurance companies. Well, as of today, we are already live with year-long contracts with 2 of the major insurance companies worldwide. We have 6 POCs, 6 pilot projects running with insurance companies across Germany, UK, Spain, and Portugal. And we are achieving massive savings for these companies. So the average saving for a fraudulent case is about 400,000 euros, and for partial settlements, so for those cases that present previous damages that our solution is able to identify, the average savings is 1,000 euro. From production data, we have seen that 20 to 25% of the total claims are at fraud risk, so are highlighted to the insurance company. About 60 of the total claims are liquidated automatically because they are compatible, and then 15% are frauds, and 20 up to 25 are at risk. The average ROI for the insurance companies is 7 to 8 times, which, by the way, might mean that we are pricing our solution too low. So from now, we have started we have incorporated our company in May 2025, so about 1 year ago. We have received pre-seed. We have closed a pre-seed round in December for 1.5 million, and now we are live with insurance companies. Our goal for the near future is to cover all the technical analysis before the end of the year, and then to scale the adoption in the portfolio and with other insurance partners. So that was it. Happy to connect later.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you can just give it to the team. Thank you so much. What a great first startup pitch. As we switched a little bit the agenda, we are a bit ahead of time, which happens barely at these events because people always love to talk, but we're really efficient today. We'll dive into a partner activity first. As I mentioned, our partner ecosystem is growing every single day, and also our insurance ecosystem. So for this, I'd love to welcome on stage Fabian Wulfrath, Director of Partnerships here in our Plug and Play team, to make this announcement.
Thank you very much, Christina, and thank you everyone for being here. It's a bit odd to host an insurance expo at a Startup Autobahn event, which is so automotive focused, and in Stuttgart, which is the center of automotive. But we do believe that more and more innovation is happening, not in industry silos, but innovation is really happening across the board, across the industries. And the challenges we do see in automotive is a sector with very low margin and very high complexity. We do see a lot of the problems in automotive trickle down into other industries, and that's why we thought for this installment of this expo we would be here in Stuttgart. And there is no more fitting partner than our new partner to join a platform like this at a day like this. One of the biggest insurance companies in Germany, with a very interesting distribution system, also being connected to the Volksbanken and Raiffeisenbanken, Volkswagen also having here. So please give a very, very big applause for our newest addition to the ecosystem, R+V. We have Dr. Volker Purbach, Department Director, and Markus Bockholt, Senior Project Lead at R+V.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for having us on stage. And we're very happy to be a partner now with Plug and Play. And as I said, we just spent, I guess, the last hour on the other stage, on the other room, on the automotive side, because it was very interesting to see what innovation is doing in the automotive business. So let's take it and perhaps transfer it in our world, in our financial services world.
Also from my side, since I also have a microphone, thank you very much. It was super interesting, and I think we already sensed today that we have the chance to look a little bit further into the future in the setup, looking into industries which we're actually serving for at the end. So I really enjoyed today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Markus. Thank you, Volker. Thank you for being a partner of Plug and Play. And thank you all, guys, for joining us together with R+V and all of you to kind of drive that platform further and explore other industries and explore together how to make insurance, keep insurance innovative and drive really this AI transformation as well together. Thank you very much. And with that, back to Christina.
Thank you. We're excited to see our ecosystem growing. So if there's any other insurance company or even any other company in another industry, talk to us if you want to understand how Plug and Play works with corporate partners and what we can actually do. So with this, now back to the innovative solutions and companies, back to the startup pitches. So Katja, welcome on stage.
All right, so we're going back to our flow. And next up, I wanted to invite on stage Vangari, a startup whose actuarial copilot is already live with Zurich Insurance, turning days of regulatory reporting into minutes, hallucination-free. Please give it up for Ari, the co-founder and CEO at Vangari.
Thank you, Katja, for the wonderful introduction. I won't be presenting you with any news here when I say that insurances are sitting on torrents of data. And there's so much valuable information in there, but you can't see it. That comes from my own background. I actually have a background in particle physics, studying dark matter, trying to find proof for something that we can't even see. And I later moved on to insurance and sustainable finance and found the same problem. We're looking for something that's invisible by nature. So what do we do about that? Well, here's where that starts in insurance. You know that the beating heart of insurance is its actuaries. They're the people who quantify risk and protect millions of policyholders. The problem is, every time that reporting season comes around, these people are bogged up in manual work, assembling Excel sheets and data pipelining stuff that they shouldn't be doing in the first place. They're spending 3-4 days of expert time on reports that they shouldn't be doing. That means slow closes, compliance risk because human error happens, and leadership waiting for clarity when that report finally arrives. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, because after all that effort, those reports tell you what happened, great, but they don't tell you why things happened. So, if a CFO or a regulator comes along and says, well, why did that reserve movement happen? Do you have the actual clear drivers there, or do you just know by coincidence that something happened at the same time? People don't know. And they have to dig for weeks longer to actually figure out what happened. So the most valuable insights stay buried in all this data that you're sitting on. The gold stays in the mud. That's why we built Etio, your financial reporting co-pilot. So Etio is powered by 2 breakthroughs, although with agentic AI, you can't really talk about a breakthrough these days. The second breakthrough, though, is causal intelligence. And causal intelligence allows you to proceed hallucination-free to the final result, to your numbers. And what this does is it means that Etio can work through any reporting standard, any jurisdiction, any business unit, and produce a report within minutes that previously used days of expert time, even when they're using ChatGPT as well. Now, this is not theoretical, this is already proven. In practice, this means that your reporting time goes down from days to minutes, as I've already mentioned. Your strategic insights, these nuggets of gold that are somewhere in the morass of all your data, get surfaced automatically, also within minutes. All of this is fully auditable, so anything our agents do is fully logged at any point in time, so you can always go back if there's anything wrong and figure out what went wrong. Usually nothing, but it's good to be sure. And this works on enterprise systems. Even on confidential data, your data never leaves your systems. We built it like that. We've already piloted this live at Zurich Insurance Group, and now we're looking for the next challenge. So I have a task, actually, for you, for those of you who are in the room, because we know that whether your name is R+V or VIG or VKB or Irish Life or any of the many other insurances here, we know that you have that same pain. So my task to you is, come find me after all these pitches and after everybody's spoken, or if you can't remember my face, which is fair enough, find that email address, and I'll give you 20 minutes of my time, and we'll figure out 2 things. First, where's your worst reporting pain right now? And secondly, exactly what do we do about it and how do we go about this in your insurance? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ari. All right, so moving on, we have our next startup on stage. So all the way from Munich, please welcome Kado, the startup that does AI agents that watch your procurement contracts like a hawk. So no negotiated discount ever slips through the cracks again. So please welcome Nicolas, the CEO and founder of Kado, on stage.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Hi, everyone. First of all, thanks a lot for Plug and Play to having us and all the other startups in the batch. I think we had a quite nice few months behind us, talking to many expert consultants in insurtech, insurance, insurers themselves, investors in insurance, getting a lot of feedback. I see a couple of faces I've already talked to, so really nice to see here the bubble of innovators and also people that give great input to us in the startups. What do we do? Basically, we focus on identifying overspending for US insurance and financial services companies. And what we see a lot across departments, there are many things that happen where you spend more than you actually should. Based on the interviews, we try to prioritize a little bit what we should talk to today. I think we're looking a lot on the loss ratio already. So we thought maybe today we bring a little bit of perspective more on your expense ratio when we talk about the combined ratio, because there's a lot of spend fragmented across departments where there's a lot of potential that you can find and see savings for you as an insurance company. What do we typically see during the day? Maybe we try to structure it in three basically pitfalls that you typically have. So the first one that we oftentimes see, you have your thresholds where you can spend within your own business function, not going through procurement. Sometimes it's 25,000, sometimes 50,000, sometimes even 100,000. And a lot of spend is going unnegotiated. And even worse, oftentimes we also have a situation where business units tries to go around the threshold, splits orders across different, or splits one supplier across different orders, and thereby spends more than actually should without actually negotiating the spend. Then the second one, what we see quite a lot in the financial services industry, very complex contracts. It's very difficult to track, do you have actually that spend, that invoices applied as you have negotiated in your contracts? So also a lot of issues that we see there. And the third one, you continuously onboard new suppliers. Every business unit tends to also have their own ownership on who to onboard. And oftentimes there's a lot of inefficiency in actually deciding, okay, which supplier should we actually use and which one is used properly. So identifying maybe opportunities for consolidation or even identifying suppliers that are not actually used but paid on an annual basis. So this is a little bit the space that we see. What are we doing actually? So we overcome the complexity of having a lot of contracts, a lot of suppliers, a lot of spend that is fragmented across divisions. And basically, we run a supplier health check for you as an insurance company. We do it across the company, running through your spend data, running through your contracts, and identifying with the next best action logic where you basically currently have overspending. And how do we do that? Yeah, I had planned to have some videos here, but then maybe let's skip that. So basically what we do, we consolidate your data. Typically what you have contracts, you have spend data, but you don't really bring that into one common database. And this is the heart that we need to actually identify overspending. Then the next step, what we do, we uncover potential on your spend. So where do you actually have split orders? Where's the budget above the limit? Where do you have consolidation potential or even renegotiation potential because the spend is much more increasing than it should too. Then we do it with claims management, so identifying where do you pay more than you actually should. So do you have the SLA, so service level aligned? Do you have potential penalties and stuff like this? And then you get a quantified result where you can optimize your supplier base. So just basically what you typically find in that industry. Looking at the big chunks of spend that we have. So on the one hand we have consulting, then we have IT, technology and operations. And maybe starting with the consulting side, we see a lot of smaller budgets being allocated to consultants, but then aggregated across along the time, which are never really properly negotiated. And also day rates, they drift quite frequently above what's actually negotiated over time, and you spend much more than you actually should to based on what you have aligned in the contract. And similar in the IT and technology space, RFPs are oftentimes not clearly defined, and oftentimes you pay much more in the end than you actually agreed to in the initial phase doing that sourcing. So oftentimes a really big issue. And especially in the IT space, also a lot of potential in consolidating suppliers. Oftentimes each business unit has an own IT solution where you could think of, hey, this makes sense to consolidate. And this is what our software then identifies. And lastly, also in the general operations space, a lot of tracking, how is the supplier performance, for example, in call centers, how can we actually enforce that we have volume rebates and stuff like this. And all of this is possible once you actually have a visibility on the spend data and the contract data. Yeah, and just to have a mini business case, how does it look? When we look at 1 billion GWP, now thinking about only the expense ratio, which we focus on, and then the share that's actually administrative and then non-personal, thinking of 50 million, what do we typically see? A potential of 2 to 4% of optimization. Oftentimes there are suppliers which you can optimize by 10%, then there are a couple of bigger ones where you are in the lower percentage numbers, but on average we are very confident with 2 to 4%, because this is a space which currently oftentimes overlooked in insurance and has a lot of optimization potential still. So yeah, this is a little bit the quick pitch that we wanted to do. Thanks a lot for listening to me. If this sounds interesting to you, you feel, hey, an expense ratio, we could do some more, reach out. I will stick around and happy to tell you a little bit more in detail how we do that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Nicholas. All right. Then we have our next startup, built by former Palantir and Swiss Re engineers. Stoneboard automates the entire manual backbone of reinsurance and insurance industry. So please welcome on stage Isabel, strategy lead at Stoneboard.
I know myself. I'm for sure gonna go over these chairs otherwise, so just making sure that I have at least some space. Cool, yeah, so I'm Isabel from Stoneborn, and we're automating the infrastructure of risk capital. So imagine, you just came out fresh out of university, and I know for some of us it's a bit longer than for others, but you come out, you're excited, you go into the industry, the real world, and you're gonna solve some cases, right? You're an actuary in training, and then you get the bordereaux, or you get the submissions. And just like was mentioned before, you're spending maybe an hour to 8 hours in writing scripts. One script, a VLOOKUP for one specific cedent. 600 cedents a year, 4 times a year, with 5 or more people in the team. In massive amounts of effort being lost in these bordereaux and submissions. We have fallen in love with this problem and many others, and I will share with you how in a year's time we went from an idea to POCs, POVs, pilots, and now in production with 2, and hopefully after tomorrow 3, and many more coming. So there's a problem. Markets are evolving, but reinsurance, what we see, the operations are not. And everyone knows the market is very unstructured. There's a lot of information that sits in these Excels, in PDFs, in XMLs, and yet there's still so much human involvement, even though it's very repetitive work. We see more and more and more how much is stuck in the operations trap. You see there's expertise that goes to execution, knowledge that stays locked in the people. It's nowhere documented, written down, or really how the decisions are being made. Change management stalls, innovation teams come with really cool POCs, yet it doesn't move off from the slides or from the POCs, like was mentioned before, and operations calcify. So, why hasn't it been solved? Consultants, great vision, and I've been one of them for many years. Horizontal platforms, but taking an extremely long time to actually come to, especially with the waterfall techniques, to really to value. And then custom builds with very uncertain outcomes. So, how have we industrialized, and what are our core values in solving this problem? First of all, we're a team, as mentioned, from ex-Swiss Re underwriters and Palantir engineers that are extremely intelligent and bring number one and number two. So the first thing, process-centric, we have set up a very composable, dynamic workflow. That is basically, you can detail an agent, there you have LLMs or human involvement, and with Plug and Play you can quite easily adapt and change the workflow based on what is needed in your organization. We're Gen AI native, we started with the platform. It's a bit also from the engineer's background, right? It needs to be secure, it needs to be safe. We have a dedicated instance per client. We can host it wherever, here in Germany, can be in the Americas, really dependent on also the regulatory requirements of our clients. And we're vertical. First time I wrote this down, I wasn't sure why, but vertical means basically we're not covering the end-to-end data value chain, but really go into depth of the knowledge of a reinsurer. So with our underwriter knowledge, that's where it starts, but then together with our clients, we do refinement cycles, and we bake their knowledge into the prompts, into the workflow, and into the agents. What does that give us? Speed. Not just us, but actually the client in the turnaround time of them bringing the bordereaux and the submissions, ultimately extracting the core data for whatever downstream purposes, analytics, audit, invoice reconciliation, which we also, by the way, do. Quality, very important. We have currently on an average of 95% accuracy, but that doesn't mean that the remaining 5% is false, what goes downstream. No, that means that automatically we're able to 95% of the time prepare the information is correct, and then the remaining 5% needs human review, which we have prepared and with validation points and the human in the loop, as all of us know. Control. Very important that you have these human-in-the-loop interfaces and proof points, adaptable per client, what is needed there, and ultimately scalability, making sure we start from a small scope. For example, we started now with the casualty, and how do we then grow along all the other lines of businesses? So we're currently live at 2 clients and hopefully 3 assets for underwriting and our middle office. Risk and exposure is currently going in or finalizing the pilot, and we're still looking for partners in delegated authority as well. And how do we do this? We do a proof of run, which is actually something we do with anonymized data within 5 days, or we spin up an instance which only requires 1 day for us, and then we can do it on your data. Then a pilot within 4 weeks, and then going into production very fast. We are Stoneborn. We're growing really fast. We have a lot of knowledge about the industry, and we're super eager to work with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Great. All right, now we have another startup pitch, all the way from across the country, from Hamburg. Please welcome High Ground, a startup that developed sovereign AI agents that fix IT incidents 80% faster inside your own infrastructure. Please welcome on stage Lucas, the founder's associate at High Ground.
Thank you. Thanks for the chairs. Smart idea. All right, I'm Lucas, and I'm talking today about High Ground. Slight information up front, I was not supposed to do this pitch, so please welcome to my PowerPoint karaoke. So what we do at High Ground is a AI agent to resolve incidents and do autonomous IT operations. For insurance, that's important because you guys spend about 7% of your revenue on IT. So basically, IT is your backbone. And the hard and bad news is that 2/3 of that money that you spend is mostly spent on keeping the lights running. Or lights running, lights on. And that's kind of a big deal because it's a lot of money. And despite these investments, incidents still happen, they cost a lot of money, and resolving them is still mostly manual. A typical incident in IT takes around 4 hours to resolve, and 75% of that time is still manual work. And in total, enterprises lose around $600 billion a year just on downtime problems. So let's look at an IT incident and how they typically look like if you don't use HighGround, and then how HighGround changes that. Usually, IT incidents happen when you're not supposed, or when they're not supposed to happen. So at night at 3 a.m. So one of your on-call devs gets pinged, has to wake up, go to the desk, and then starts investigating. Okay, what happened? And then he goes through logs, traces. That takes, on average, 2.5 hours. And then at some point, he finally finds the issue of what happened, and then starts implementing the fix. So on average, that takes 4 hours to resolve. If you use HighGround, while the IT developer or on-call developer gets up, kind of shakes out his legs and starts to wake up, actually, HighGround is autonomously pinged, goes through the whole code base, and has access to all the tools the DevOps engineer would use, understands automatically where the issue comes from, reads logs at machine speed and not like a human really slowly. And then by the time the developer looks at a screen, is fully awake, he gets a full root cause analysis, understands what the issue is, and can straight up implement the fix. So saves on average 3 hours and 20 minutes. The cool part about this as well, usually when you're an on-call dev, after you're done, you really want to go back to sleep. But the thing is, you still have to write documentation of what happened, because otherwise you will forget. HighGround does this also autonomously and fully automated. So in total, you save a lot of time, you keep knowledge, and your on-call developers get a lot more sleep. Now, using AI in production environment sounds like a nightmare and sounds like lost databases, deleted stuff, and really something that ends up in the news. The way we build HighGround is keeping security and sovereignty in mind so that it actually works for enterprises. It is fully self-hosted on your cloud or on-prem, can be even be air-gapped. Data never loses your environment, and even we don't see what actually happens, which for product analytics is kind of bad, but it's really important. And then you can also bring your own model. So if you have hosted frontier models, open source models, again, you can do this fully air-gapped, but you have full control over where your data is sent. In total, this means HighGround lives on your premise, you keep your data, you choose whatever you want to do with HighGround, and you can use AI finally to become operationally resilient without sending your data somewhere where you don't trust the people or the providers. For IT professionals, for the IT departments, this means two things. First of all, less downtime, faster recovery when actually downtime happens. And on the other side, more knowledge is saved, root cause analysis happen faster, and your team is actually has to face less operational stretch. We are already live, so we are already working with the Deutsche Bahn, with EFM, Adesso, and a few other corporates, already sketching out different POVs with insurance providers. Very happy to continue talking about this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lucas. Perfect. And now we will conclude with our last speech of the day. I'm pleased to welcome on stage Vani Vani, the team making sure that your product shows up when customers ask ChatGPT or Claude instead of Googling. So with already live with big names in the insurance space, please welcome on stage Robin, the founder of Vani Vani.
Thank you, Katja. Hi, everyone. I'm Robin, co-founder and CEO of Vani Vani, and we're building the revenue infrastructure for agentic distribution. These are barbaric words to say that we help insurers make money inside LLMs, make revenue. What we see in the market is that AI is becoming the buyer. Consumers and businesses are using AI to search, compare, and buy insurance products. This is already the reality. In the US, 50% of consumers are already using AI to buy financial services. And across our clients, 20% of their new business is already coming from LLMs today. and this traffic converts on average 4 times more than traditional search. Small parenthesis, this is true for consumers, this is also true for commercial lines. Businesses, what they do is they go through a broker, get a quote, and their first reflex is go on ChatGPT or Claude, put it in there and challenge it. So this is true regardless of the insurance lines. When AI becomes the buyer, 2 problems arise. One, these LLMs, they're a black box. So you don't have access to the user's prompts, and you can't know how your clients are discovering your products and what's triggering the buying decision. So you're blind. 2, your distribution stack, everything you've built to distribute your products, have been built for humans, not for agents. So your website has been built to capture human attention. It hasn't been built to be crawled by ChatGPT to find your information. Same thing for your entire sales funnel with brokers, agents. It's suboptimal when it's an AI agent taking the decision. In essence, when AI becomes the buyer, insurance companies are losing control of their distribution. With One-e, we help you regain control of this distribution. We help insurers distribute personalized quotes directly inside LLMs, which is where your customers are discovering your products. The video is not showing apparently. I'll walk you through how it works concretely. Let's say you have a user going on ChatGPT looking for home insurance. You will have an application that will pop up inside the chat, capture some inputs, let's say the address of the user, the size of the property, if they have high-value items, and if they're renting or owning. And then it will deliver a personalized price directly inside the chat with a personalized level of coverage. And the user can just iterate on this quote, add more coverage, change some options, etc. Our value proposition, in essence, relies on 5 points. 1, we help insurers build this AI application. 2, we help you make it live on ChatGPT and other channels, as we'll see. And 3, once you have an application live, this is where the real problem and work starts. There is a lot of work to do on making sure you get traffic. It makes no sense to have an application on ChatGPT that doesn't pop up inside your chat. So how does your app get discovered? How do you get traffic? Once it's discovered, how do you know how many conversations you've had with your users? How many leads and quotes were generated in the end? So how many revenue you generated? Why the other ones dropped? What were the reasons for the drops? And how can you act on this? That's number 3. We help you evaluate the performance and improve the discoverability of your apps. Number 4, we don't stop at ChatGPT. We expand across all the other channels wherever your customers can find your products. It can be Claude. It can also be your existing channels, your website, where we replicate the same user experience as on LLMs, WhatsApp, Voice AI, you name it. And 5, the most important of all, we help you simulate the market and optimize your revenue. What we do is we create synthetic buyers. So we start from a persona. Let's take back the example of the home insurance. We'll start with a French entrepreneur moving to Stuttgart looking for home insurance. For this persona, we simulate thousands of conversations on all the channels. We look at how your application is performing on this simulation, where you're winning and where you're losing. And then we use data to optimize your full funnel, your messaging, your UX, UI, your pricing to make sure that you maximize the revenue through these applications. That's the end goal we're pursuing. This is something that makes it a bit more visual. You can think about it as 2 pillars. We help you create your AI storefront and deploy it on all your channels, all LLMs, websites, WhatsApp, etc. And then the infrastructure is where the real work is happening to measure the performance of these sales agents, to optimize it, and something very important that I haven't talked about yet, compliance. We put some very specific guardrails on these agents, collecting the different regulations at a local level. So it will be BaFin in Germany, but ACPR in France, FCA in the UK, NAIC in the US. And we make sure that these guardrails are respected by your AI agents. I'm going to finish on this one. When AI becomes the buyer, consumers can get quotes much easier. They can compare these quotes, and the switching cost then become much lower. It's much easier to change from insurance. That's a lot of challenges for insurers, but that also creates a massive opportunity. Katja was mentioning dynamic underwriting. and she was mentioning that the really important thing is on the quality of the data that you can get. With the conversational data you can get from all your users across LLMs and existing channels, you can massively increase the number of inputs you get before getting a price. You can have a much more differentiated pricing strategy, have a continuous risk assessment, and these are all the problems we're solving for our clients with WaniWani. We're already working with more than 20 clients in the US, across Europe. So yeah, I'm happy to go into more details if you want to chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robin, for this last startup pitch. And with that, we're closing the startup pitches. And I want to give a special shout out to all the startups that have been presenting today. We're closing the InsurTech Expo, but also we're closing the entire stage. So we've had many different topics from dual use, deep tech, new products, value chains, and also insurance. So thank you all for coming, for listening in. Everyone who's in the insurance space, there will be a get-together just to continue the conversations outside. It's really nice and sunny. We'll have some drinks, and I think the ice cream station is still ongoing, so it's really nice. And also the main stage is still going on, so there are some announcements, some awards, so you shouldn't miss that. Thank you all for coming, and enjoy the evening.